Is he biting that ice cream cone? If you ever see someone eat an ice cream cone like this, call Homeland Security. Even before Truck Coon sent them into space, he spent his evenings relaxing and beating people with crowbars. But that's not all though. To prove to you what an absolute menace to society he is, let me ask you a question. What would you do if you saw a kidnapping in broad daylight? Would you A, call the police, B, intervene, or C, let the kidnapping happen so you can find them later and beat them with crowbars? If you picked C, I'm worried about you, but that's exactly what he did. My man literally dresses up like he's about to rob a jewelry store and follows these kidnappers to whatever kidnapper warehouse they had this girl held up in. When he gets there, one of the kidnappers tries to do the gentlemanly thing by putting his gun down so he can square up, and our guy just beats this man with a crowbar. No respect. Mind you, this is all pre-Truck Coon, so this is in his normal everyday life. The only thing that can seem to get to him, though, is that no matter how strong he gets or how many crowbars this man has, he can never be strong enough to withstand bullets or, I kid you not, nuclear explosions. Our man is worried about nuclear explosions. This gets him so shook he runs into the road and catches the eye of the most dangerous villain in anime, Truck Coon. So naturally he reincarnates and you think, well, now he's got all the magical power he could ever want. He can just rule this world. It'll be easy. Well, yes, but actually no. What ends up happening is that he decides he will be an NPC by day and continue to slaughter bandits and criminals at night. He wants to be this world's final boss. But he thinks to do this, he's going to need a crew. So let me ask you a question. How do you think he goes about finding this crew? Does he A, put out an ad in the local magical newspaper? B, do some investigative work to see who needs a job? Or C, basically kidnap an orphan? If you picked C, again, I'm questioning your morals, but that is exactly right. His first follower is a girl who he saved so he could gaslight her into believing that there's a secret cult who cursed her and turned her into a blob monster. He somehow convinces this orphan that he has saved her from the curse that has been put upon her by a cult that doesn't exist. He tells her that his mission and his organization's mission is to save the world from this mysterious cult. And of course, he's just making all this up as he goes. And to add insult to injury, he names her Alpha because he knows that he's going to end up kidnapping way more orphans in the future, and it just makes it easier to remember. And he keeps this up for 3 years while training her in the shadows and hiding his strength from everyone else in his life. All the while still using every opportunity to play with the people that he knows could never hold a candle to him. Like when he's sparring with his older sister, who's considered to be one of the best swordsmen in the region, he moves in hyperspeed to see how many killing blows he could make if he just used a fraction of his power. Now, during these 3 years, he expands his quote-unquote organization by adding 6 more orphans. And at this point, he's so unhinged and convinced that no one else matters that when his sister gets kidnapped, he decides to make a show of it by making his grand appearance as the Shadow, the leader of the organization that he made up to go after the cult that he also made up. When he finds his sister's kidnapper, by the way, he straight up murders him and takes a locket of this man's daughter as a memento. Not only does he ignore the man's sole purpose for becoming a villain, he takes the only thing that was keeping this man going. And that is pure psychopath behavior. And by the way, if you think that he's then going to rescue his sister who was kidnapped by this man, you'd be wrong. Instead, he just goes back home and waits for his sister to crawl back from whatever dungeon they had her in. So he keeps this up for another couple years, and at this point he's 15 and starts to attend an academy for Dark Knights. This is where he really just leans into the side character shtick and tries to do everything in his power to seem as ordinary as possible, but every now and again we see some of his psychotic tendencies peek through. I mean, just look at how this man eats an ice cream cone. If you ever see someone eat an ice cream cone like this, call Homeland Security, because I'm sure somebody would want to talk to him. But all jokes aside, somebody basically does call Homeland Security on him, and he ends up getting questioned for a kidnapping. And of course, at any point in time, he could just break free, right? But of course, he's not going to do that. Our boy is not that well in the head. Instead, he just leans in and decides these people who are basically torturing him for information are also side characters, and he will not be outdone. You see, his performance will not be outshined by these other side characters. So he just starts screaming like they're doing a bang-up job. And now his network of, at this point, 100 plus gaslit orphan girls uncover the location of this kidnapped girl, and guess what he does? Does he A, run to her aid, B, assemble a strike force to save her, or C, set up an elaborate room of decoration so he can cosplay as the Shadow? Now, of course, our man could only ever pick C. He gets dressed up, busts out the good wine, picks up his clothes from the dry cleaners, and decides he'll wait until the last minute and reveal his secret organization. And in his Shadow character, he just cuts indiscriminately, so he just immediately starts murking people. This man is on a mission to ruin families tonight. Eventually, he finds the kidnapper, plays with him a bit before revealing his identity as the head of Shadow Garden, and then nukes the tunnel he's in. He literally creates a controlled nuclear explosion in the tunnel and obliterates part of the city with it. Then he just goes back to being a regular NPC like nothing happened until a group of terrorists try to take over his academy sometime later. Now, in typical NPC fashion, he decides to pretend to sacrifice himself to save the class president, who he considers to be a named main character. When he gets up, he plays a game of what he calls Snipe the Bad Guys, where he's literally picking these people off from a rooftop. But that's not fun enough for him. He then finds the second in command of the terrorist group storming the academy and decides to play with him for a bit. And Sid literally leads him to a class full of dead bodies that he's propped up. Why? He took the time to literally place all of these people so this guy could just see what's about to happen to him. An absolute mad lad. Now, when he finds the main baddie, he decides instead of taking him out right away, he'd sit perched on the windowsill reading a book like Batman and toy with him for a bit. Then he murders the man in front of his adopted daughter and just decides to walk away without saying a word. Not even a, hey, your dad was plotting some stuff, your dad offed your mom, nothing. Just walks away because it's not his problem because he's a side character. I mean, there's not much else to say here. He's psychotic, he's overpowered, and because of this, he's one of my favorite characters of the season. All right, that's all I got. If you like this content and want to support the channel, give it a like, subscribe to get notified when I drop new videos. See you guys in the next one.